Hello, Year 5 6, and welcome to your health lecture on the topic of personal identity for Week 3 Health. Now, personal identity is the ever changing concept that you've developed about yourself, and this can evolve and be ever changing throughout the course of your lifetime. It can be affected by things that are unchangeable about yourself, such as the color of your skin, what country you were born in, where you're growing up. And it can also be affected by things that are changeable about yourself, like the media that you consume, who you're spending your time with, and what you choose to do with your spare time. For example, playing sport versus not playing sport. It's really important that we look at the factors of your personal identity because you're about to go into a very interesting time in growing up as you transition from primary school to high school, and knowing who you are and knowing your personal identity as you go from primary school to high school is an important aspect of making sure that transition is strong. So today's task, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at some of the factors that can shape your personality, and I want you to think critically about those factors and how they have shaped your personality. For an example, I've said a factor that has shaped my personality was the coverage of sport in Australia, and in particular the coverage of the Sydney Olympic Games that were held in the year 2000. During this event, I really enjoyed doing the swimming races and decided to start swimming as a sport, something that I've continued to do till this day. Therefore, an important factor in my personal identity of who I am is the media and the media coverage of sport because I've continued to do swimming and swimming has become an integral part of my personal identity. That media coverage became a factor in how I've developed. Another thing that is a factor in how I've developed is where I grew up. I grew up in the eastern suburbs, just outside of Lilydale, near a little suburb called Mooroolbark on the Lilydale train line. And because I lived in that sort of area, I had facilities to go to do athletics when I was a child, basketball, swimming. I think I did tennis for a little bit as well. Because I had those facilities all around me, a, a factor in where I grew up, it meant that I was able to go to do those things compared to, say, someone who lives in 2 hours outside of Alice Springs in the middle of the desert. If someone lived there, they probably won't have those same facilities and won't have the same opportunities. So their personal identity might be more based around being a farmer, being the skills that are needed for living out there, whereas my personal identity was based around skills that are needed for living in suburbia. Like I said, personal identity can be affected by a number of things. It might be affected by particular people that you have around you. If you've got a really influential grandparent who got you into something that was interesting, or a really influential aunt in your life who may have got you into like an art or something. Anything like that you can think of that is an important part of who you are. So I'm not just talking about things that you do. If you casually play Fortnite, that's not really an important factor in who you are. That's a game. But if being someone who plays video games is an important factor in your life, I want you to think about why do you play video games? Did a person get you involved in video games, or was it just you chose to do it? Was it the media that you saw some really cool ads for games? Was it your friends who convinced you to do it? So think about the important thing to do during this activity is to think about a idea or something that you do that's important to you, and then trace back why it became important to you and what is the reason you first did it. If you guys say you really enjoy playing football, I know some of the girls here started playing football. Think about whether you started playing football because the AFLW became more popular. Did you start playing football because you saw female athletes on TV? Did you start playing football just because your parents said, "Hey, this could be fun"? Those are three different factors that could result in the same position of some of you girls playing football, but because they're different factors, they will have created slightly different personal identities for yourself. So for this week's task, what you're going to be doing is I want you to find 5 factors that have been affected by your personality, and write a sentence using the format of the example that I have about why that factor has become important. And this can be handed in using your Google Classroom. There's an assignment up on Google Classroom that you can use to hand this in. So if you have any other questions about this task, feel free to send me an email. I've got my email all over the website, so you know where it is. And handing in the assignment by this Friday on Google Classroom. Really, really good job so far with working from home, guys, and I can't wait to teach you all again at school soon.